Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Now, there's been yet another heated moment inside the Oval Office. The signs were all there. The storm was brewing, and Cyril Ramaphosa had an inkling of what was to be confronted by him. Now, Donald Trump was, of course, well prepared, and he challenged the visiting South African president with claims of a white genocide being perpetrated in South Africa. Now, similar scenes had unfolded on the 28th of February when Trump had hosted his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, when a very fiery public confrontation, Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance had accused Zelensky of not being grateful enough for U.S. support that had sustained Ukraine's war effort.
We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
And we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You haven't been allowed.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment. And you men are brave, but they had to use our military. If you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
Now, Cyril Ramaphosa's visit to the Oval Office on Wednesday was, of course, the closest yet of a repeat of that. He knew that there would be treading of the most perilous of diplomatic tightropes. Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, came prepared with facts to counter Donald Trump. He arrived with top South African golfer Ernie Els and Retief Goosen in tow, hoping to take the edge off the golf mad over Trump's genocide claims against white South African farmers. The stage was set. Donald Trump told his aides to turn the lights down. A video of South African politicians chanting, "Kill the Boer farmer," began to play on the screen. Now, sitting on the edge of his seat, Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, looked stunned, and he was, of course, struggling to get a view of what was being played in front of him.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from...
But Trump had more than just the videos. He also had brought in a sheaf of papers that he said were printouts of reports about attacks on white farmers in South Africa.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But unlike Zelensky, the South African president largely stayed pretty calm as he argued his case. He clarified that the politicians seen in the video were from a minor party who were in the opposition, and what they said did not represent state policy.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution. There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people.
The South Africa's opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, on the other hand, have said that liberation chant is not tied to farmer attacks.
Commander-in-Chief and President was also surprised that the White House would convene a meeting that was said to be for diplomatic, trade and economic mending processes would result into a gossip session about him and his abstention. But no credible or verifiable evidence was produced that there's a white genocide in South Africa. And there's been no plausible link between the singing of the song and the murder of any individual here in South Africa as well. So there's nothing that warrants us to abandon paying homage to a liberation struggle song.
And also our correspondent Calden Ongmu has been tracking the story very closely for us from Johannesburg. Listening to what she had to say as to how South Africa is reacting to this showdown that happened at the Oval Office.
South Africans stuck to their TVs and phones to watch the much-anticipated meeting between President Ramaphosa and President Trump at the Oval Office on Wednesday. Every small detail, like the handshake, was being closely watched. While some South Africans seemed frustrated that Ramaphosa did not clear the air on genocide, others applauded him for remaining calm, collected, and stately throughout. Some experts have described Ramaphosa as a clever negotiator and said he was very strategic in choosing his entourage. In places where he needed to speak, he did, and the rest he let his entourage do the work. Most South Africans on social media said that Ramaphosa handled the entire situation quite well and even went on to say that they were glad that Trump did not give the floor to his deputy Vance nor Elon Musk. Overall, most South Africans believe these talks are off to a promising start and there's reason to be cautiously optimistic. This is Calden Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
All right, now to help us put this in perspective, you're joined this broadcast by Mr. Eugene Craig, who's a political analyst and also the former chair of the Black Republicans for Harris. Mr. Craig, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, this interesting interaction that happened between Donald Trump and Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African president, a lot has been said about it. But before we get to what this interaction per se is going to signal, Donald Trump has been repeatedly talking about the persecution of white farmers, as he puts it, in South Africa. But Cyril Ramaphosa says that this is simply not a policy of the government in South Africa. In your assessment, why is this such a big issue for Donald Trump that he keeps repeating this over and over again?
Well, it's a big issue because Donald Trump and his advisors like Stephen Miller, Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, and others thrive on what we like to call white resentment politics, where they have to find some issue here in America has become the immigration issue, where they have to find some issue that just drives a wedge for white people. And here, they've taken up the cause of the Afrikaans, and they've dived all in on this whole philosophy and this myth of white genocide. There's nowhere in the world where white genocide actually happens. There's nowhere in the world. I mean, there's never been in the history of the world where white genocide has happened at the hands of people of color. All of our peoples, whether here in America, Black people here in America, or Indian people in India over the course of history, have been victims of genocide at the hands of white people, not the other way around. But Donald Trump has white nationalists and as advisors around him, and they've pushed this ideology and this theory and this myth and this lie, and you've seen them act on it. So last week you saw 50 migrants while they're kicking out hundreds of thousands of migrants of color, you saw them welcome with open arms 50 to 60 migrants from South Africa because, based on a lie of white genocide.
All right. Now, this is traditional American politics. It was considered that an invite to the White House to meet with the American president within the White House was considered to show as to how close the relations between the two nations were. But Trump seems to be changing American diplomacy on its head, where an invite to the White House could now mean, a sort of a potential ambush of sorts laid down by the American president. We saw what happened with Cyril Ramaphosa earlier with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and also to a certain extent with the Jordanian King Abdullah.
Yeah, and the thing is this, right? Historically, it has been a sign of strength to sit down with the President of the United States as a world leader. But, you don't know what you're going to get from Donald Trump. For all the talks of what Joe Biden's mental state was towards the end of his presidency, I think there should be a lot of discussions about what Donald Trump's current mental state is, and his emotional neurotic, instability, and how he handles a lot of other world leaders that visit the White House. When the president of Ukraine visited, right, there should have been a level of utmost respect. Ukraine's fighting a war that Americans don't have to fight ourselves right now when it comes to Russia. So, rather than a disrespect to put on the show, there should have been a level of respect there. King Abdullah has been a close ally of America, whether it's a Democrat or Republican president in place. And so, but what you see here with this 2025 Trump administration, you see, an unqualified Secretary of Defense, unqualified Secretary of Homeland Security, a Treasury Secretary that has our economy in free fall, Commerce Secretary that is giving the president trade advice that's killing our economy, and the president of the United States that's not just sleep at the wheel, but actually doing actual damage.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Eugene Craig, for joining us with our perspective there.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.